I think my husband is sleeping with the babysitter. I'm still trying to process this in my mind while typing this out. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4. We have 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Both of us work full-time. I'm a realtor and husband owns his own business. We've had a number of different nannies in the past. Sometimes our parents end up watching the kids. About 8 months ago, my husband told me that one of his friend's daughter, we'll call her Ella, 20F, was looking for a part-time job during college. We live in a small college town, so her commute wouldn't be that far. We tried her out one night and it went smoothly. She's always been nice to me and the kids love her. My suspicions started last month when I came home early to find my husband had been home. Ella was also at the house babysitting. I asked my husband why he didn't send her home if he was home. His response was, she's just trying to make a little money and that the kids were having fun. Then, 2 weeks ago, I drove by my husband's office on the way to a meeting and her car was parked there. I asked my husband later about what Ella was doing at the office. He said that she probably stopped by to see her dad. Now when I come home, Ella is always dressed up more with makeup on and heels. Then 2 days ago, I found strands of blonde hair in the backseat of my husband's truck. I have blonde hair, but this was closer to Ella's shade. Also, I don't think my husband would do anything in the back seat since he's 6'6" and 240 pounds. Last night, I found the opportunity to check my husband's phone while he was with the kids. I didn't find any romantic texts between them, but I could definitely tell that text messages had been deleted. If you read the conversation, it didn't make any sense because it was obviously missing the middle part. I talked to my friend this morning and she pointed out that my husband has a type, blonde women. Ella falls perfectly in that category. Should I confront him right now or should I wait to find something more concrete? Update 1. Nanny is currently at the house right now. Tracked husband using Find My iPhone, and he's also headed home, 30-minute drive. They both think I'll be working until 7 p.m. today. I'm going to walk into the house 15 minutes after husband gets home unannounced. Not sure what the plan is if I catch them. I unfortunately don't have access to his phone logs since his phone plan is through his business. We have cameras on the outside of the house. We have a baby monitor near the kid's bed. I'm not ready to fire her unless I get solid evidence of my husband cheating. I need to know if my husband is having any sort of romantic relationship with her first. Update 2. I wasn't able to get the concrete evidence I was looking for, but some more circumstantial evidence. Tracked husband through Find My iPhone. He stopped on his way home at the grocery store for 10 minutes. I decided to park and wait on a side street. That way I could see when my husband would get home. Husband got home at 5:30 p.m. Ella was scheduled to work until 6 p.m. We have a long gravel driveway that leads to our house, so I decided to park near the barn so I wouldn't be heard pulling up to the house. Walked in the front door and found Ella feeding my 4-year-old. She was also preparing dinner in the kitchen. Today, she had on a tight top, skirt, and platform heels. I asked if she knew where my husband was. She replied, he was upstairs taking a shower. She then immediately went over to the living room to pick up her phone and send a text message to someone. Also in the living room were a fresh bouquet of flowers. I asked her about the flowers and she said a guy she's been seeing gave them to her today. She said she didn't want to leave them in the car, so she brought them inside. I asked her about the guy that she was seeing. She said he was from school and wasn't sure if it was going anywhere. I went upstairs to see if my husband left his phone in the bedroom. He did. He left his phone on the dresser. Sure enough, the newest text message was from Ella that read, "Your wife is home." I tried looking up the deleted messages on his phone, but they had been permanently deleted. I decided to wait in our bedroom for my husband to come out of the shower. He comes out and is surprised to see me in the bedroom. Told him my 6:30 showing got canceled. I tried to initiate sex to see how he would react. He said he didn't feel comfortable doing it while Ella was in the house. At this point, Ella was upstairs in my younger son's room, which shares a wall with our room. Ella leaves the house at 6 p.m. with the flowers. After dinner, my husband mentioned to me about buying Ella a new car for Christmas, and his reasoning was that her car was old and not safe for our kids to ride in. I told him that I would think about it. I'm thinking about firing her on Monday without telling my husband and see how they both react. I'm still trying to process everything going on. Still hoping all of this is just me overthinking. I really love my husband and I can't stand the thought of our beautiful family splitting up. Thanks for all the advice. Now, here are some relevant comments. User 1 says, Not sure if this has been asked yet, but 1. How did you guys meet her? And 2. Is her father your husband's colleague? OP replied with, Ella's dad is one of the sales reps that works for my husband. User 2 says, the car purchase suggestion to me was the fishiest thing of all. OP replied and said, Ella's family is not a family of means, but she now has a new iPhone, new clothes, jewelry, and shoes. I didn't put both together until my husband suggested buying her a brand new car. We share a bank account for bills, but we also both have separate accounts. Also, I just remembered last week my husband came home with a new jacket. He told me that he liked it, so he bought it. My husband never buys clothes for himself. User 3 commented, there's no reason to be coming home in heels and all dressed up to babysit 2 toddlers if there wasn't something else going on. OP says, I 100% agree with this. When she first started, she would come in baggy clothing. Now she comes in dresses or skirts. My husband likes nails white. Ella has white nails now too. User 4 says, that's sus. And then finally, OP replied with, husband has a foot fetish, which is why the heels are messing with my head so much. She went from sneakers to sandal heels. Update, December 17th, 2023. I would like to thank everyone for their support and ideas on how to deal with this situation. Yesterday morning, I met up with Ella and told her that we wouldn't be needing her services anymore due to my little sister being available to watch the kids, which is true. She quietly said that she understood and said to let her know if I would change my mind. Husband called me 5 minutes later sounding very upset about Ella being fired. I think Ella told him, but he claimed her dad told him that we fired her. I told him that was my final decision and there was no changing it. He came home 20 minutes later and asked me why I didn't talk to him first about firing her. So, I told him about everything I've noticed between them, from the text to the clothing, the attire she wears. He denied everything and said it was all in my head. And I told him, if you want this marriage not to end in a divorce, he needs to cut off all contact with Ella. After 1 hour of arguing, he finally agreed to not contact her anymore. I honestly don't have the mental energy to deal with a divorce, split my kids, date again. I don't want to be the single mom always busy and unhappy. I told him to never bring her up again. I don't know 100% if they had an affair, but I think it's better for my health not to find out. I think I'm going to quit my job and raise my kids and work on my marriage. I'm not sure if this was all because I've been working a lot of hours and have been distant from my husband. Thanks again for all the support. And one more thing, men, stop messaging me pictures of your private parts on Reddit. Here are some more relevant comments. OP says, completely forgot to add that I told his mom. User 5 asked, what did his mom say? OP replied with, she said not to worry about it and that she'll take care of it. He's been at her house all day. I trust her because I'm closer to her than my own mother. I don't think I've seen a story end in this particular way to my knowledge, where it seems to be a case of the sunk cost fallacy taking place. As she mentioned, if there was an affair, then she would go through a divorce, a long, probably messy one. She would be a single mother. She'd have to be dating again, and that's just so much stuff. It's not necessarily a happy ending, but I understand why she did it. And for her own sanity, she said, don't ever contact that little girl again or I'm gonna beat your ass. But anyway, what do you guys think? Do you understand why she did it, or no, do you think she's crazy? Anyway, next story. Story number 2. Boyfriend opened up about his past, and I'm scared this is above my pay grade. Okay, so I, 27F, have been dating this guy, 26M, for over 6 months, and I really like him. He's honestly the most mature and kind-hearted guy I've ever been with, and I do love him. He lives with his 8-year-old sister who he parents and cares for, and I made a post about this before, but he tried to introduce her to me. She seemed okay with me at first, but then one day she randomly bit me. So we decided to keep some distance between her and I. He never told me about their story, but today we were sitting down together and he mentioned he finally felt ready. So the reason why he parents her is because their parents are no longer alive. He didn't get into too much detail, but his mom had a history of really bad mental health problems, and it sounded like she killed his dad and then took her own life, while his younger sister was in the house. She was 6 at the time. Afterwards, he took emergency custody of his sister to prevent her from going into the foster system, and he said she hasn't at all talked to him about that night since. He told me she does have a child psychologist and therapist who she sees normally, and she's on medication, and so is he. He also mentioned that she has really severe abandonment issues, and even told me this genuinely heartbreaking story of one time where he was late to pick her up from school, and when he got there, she was uncontrollably crying her eyes out. He told me that he wanted to introduce me to her because she doesn't have a prominent female figure in her life, and he was hoping to change that. But in hindsight, doing that so early on in the relationship was probably a mistake, since he can't imagine how threatened she feels by my presence or how scared she is that I might take him from her. He even started to cry at one point and told me that she is the best part of his life and the joy of his world, and he would, quote, rather chew off his own Johnson than leave her. I kept reiterating that I'm here for him and love him, but I don't know what to do other than that. It seems like the two of them have been through a lot of pain, and I have no idea what I can do to help, or even if there's anything I can do. Is there anything I could do at this point?
I'm not crying, you're crying. Next story, shut up.
Story number 3. I am 30, married my wife, F26, 6 months ago, and just found out she has insane ideas over sex and purity. In 2019, I was going through a rough patch. Hated my job, I wasn't in the best of terms with my parents, and I was feeling sorry for myself after getting cheated on and feeling worthless. My girlfriend, Crystal, basically pulled me out of that funk with patience and support. We were friends before we dated, and she knew I was in a bad place, so she would constantly text and call me to see how I was doing almost every day, and encouraged me to take the steps I needed to take. She might have literally saved me from hurting myself the way I was going. And from there, we became more than friends. After 2 years, we moved to a new city together and started living together. She had to move because of a great job offer, and I followed along since I could work from home. This year, we got married and planned on having a baby, but put that on pause because of some unexpected medical issues springing up, thyroid disease. But the plan was to try as soon as the doctor advises us it was safe. But now, I'm not sure if I want to have the baby with her at all. Last Saturday, we had a few friends over for drinks and dinner. Eventually, one of her close friends was left, and it was just the 3 of us. The friend shared a story about their grandma being uber strict, and a lot of family members couldn't stand her, but her being with grandma helped shape her up. This prompted my wife to share about her mother and how she was tough as well to deal with, but always had her best interest in mind and busted her ass to support her and her siblings. All good so far. Then she blurted out about her mom being so paranoid and uptight that she constantly gave Chris and her sister virginity tests when they'd come back from hanging out with friends, especially if they spent the night at a friend's place or elsewhere. This was done when in their teenage years, between 12 and 17. Both her friend and myself just looked at her taken aback, and she made a quip over old people being weirdos to break the awkwardness. Once we were alone, I asked her about it, and she said it's embarrassing to say, but that was just the thing she had to put up with growing up, but it was for the best. Because in her words, it kept her head on straight and kept her from turning out like other women. I argued that she turned out okay in spite of that, not because of that. She told me I didn't get it because I'm a guy and that I'm not a parent yet who has to worry over their kid's image and reminding them to not be stupid. So, I point blank asked her if she plans to do this to any daughters we might have, and she said she would because it works, in her words. I told her that is a gross violation of teenagers' rights. She then pointed out there's no such thing as a real virginity test, and it's just to screw with the kids' heads if their mom forces them to show them their genitals to check if they had sex every time they don't spend the night at home. She defended it by saying a woman can tell, and that even if she couldn't tell, it would keep the pressure on the kids to not fool around. And she mentioned again that she turned out well, so what's the big deal? I told her this is just plain weird, and there's better ways to preach abstinence, and she told me if it bothers me so much, then I better hope we have a boy just like she does. I asked her what she meant by that, and she said boys are easier to raise. She then emphasized that a lot goes into raising girls. I asked her if this is why her older sister was kicked out for a few days when she was 17, and my wife just said, kind of. I told her that's some pretty crappy parenting. At this point, she was getting upset, and I didn't want to push things any further. I've known her family for years, and while I've always known her mom is a hardcore fundamentalist, I didn't know she did stuff like that. And my wife has shared before, she's always had a preference of having a boy over a girl, but I never knew it was over stuff like this. My wife is caring, hardworking, was a great student, and is doing great in her career. So I'm not sure how to bring this topic up again without undermining what she thinks helped build her into the person she is. Her mom being a Puritan weirdo, but saying it would be a terrible idea to raise any daughter we might have under a similar environment. It also makes me second guess the idea that any child we have can choose to believe what they want to believe, and we won't pressure them to be something they don't want to. If she doesn't think they have a say in their sex lives, what about other parts of their life? Do you think the wife listens to T.I., the rapper? If you guys don't know, he also does something similar where he frequently checks to see if his daughter's hymen is still intact, and it's so weird. I haven't heard about it in a few years, but the fact that he does it at all to his adult daughter to make sure his adult daughter is still a virgin is weird. Anyway, next story. Story number 4. My husband of 16 years is having a baby, and it's not mine. I, 46F, have lived with my husband, 48M, for over 20 years, married for 16, and we have 2 kids, 16 and 9. 1 year ago, he decided that he has had enough of family life and wanted to live with his parents for some time. He was behaving like a bachelor for the entirety of his stay with them, found a girlfriend, and was drunk constantly. He had used alcohol before, but we never had much problems around it. He also spent a lot of his time playing games with friends on his computer. 1 year ago, he informed me that he found a girlfriend and was ready to move out of our apartment and cut ties, although he didn't quite do that. He left me, making close to minimum wage, to care for our 2 kids and also left a collection of unpaid bills going back months. After that, I fell into a depressive episode that lasted 2 months, and my 2 close friends managed to get me out of it. About 3 months after he left us, he came back. Well, not really. He started coming to our city, hanging out with the kids again, and also with me, inviting me out for drinks and dinner. All was going well, and my 16-year-old went on a week-long trip with him. For a while, all was going well. He said that the girlfriend was a lie and he just needed some time away to clear his head. Last night, I sent him a "good night, love you" text as I usually do, but in the morning he replied with, "I don't deserve your love. I'm about to become a dad again. I'm sorry." I later called him to ask what he meant by that, and he told me that he has a girlfriend in another country who is pregnant with his kid. She plans to keep it, and he wants to cut ties with me and our kids to care for that child. I don't know what to do. I requested divorce, but he declined, saying he was not ready. Can anyone give me advice regarding the situation? Can I divorce him anyways, even though he doesn't want to do it? Is there any way I can secure payments to my kids, since with only my job, I can barely make ends meet for the basics? I do some odd jobs here and there, but it's not enough. What is this story? You go left and then she yanks you right. You go straight and then she pulls you back and says, "Hold on, I gotta show you this." What is this abusive, lying, terrible relationship? Oh, I have to leave, but she didn't divorce him immediately. Then he comes back and they're like, "Oh yay, let's be together again." Bro, what? And then this dude has a girlfriend, but he doesn't, but then she's real anyway, and then he lies about her, and then he's saying he has a kid in another country and wants to cut contact, but also wants not to divorce. What the flying mother? Oh my God. What do you guys think about this story? As you can tell, I have a lot of opinions about it and don't know how to word them. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.